What if menopause was a magical time? What if it was a time when it could be something really, it's a different time, but it's a time of new invention, a time of creation, a time of being a new person, a time of just finding yourself? What if we could just throw all those myths away? It's not the 1950s, and see what it's really about. It's a part of the beautiful life that we're living. Now, today, I've got a beautiful guest who will answer all those questions for you and show you how this is possible and so much more. But before I introduce her to you, my name's Carina. This is Break Fear, Find Freedom. And sit back, relax, listen to this, and of course, share it with all your friends, because this is going to change your life. So without further ado, hello, Dr. Tayo. I'm so excited to have you on the show again.
I am so happy to be here, Carina. Every time I come here, I have a fantastic time. I enjoy myself. Am I supposed to do that? But I do.
That's brilliant. I love that, because that's exactly what this is. You know what I say every time we come together and have these conversations, we leave somewhat differently, but always in a good way, right? And that's the fun part about this.
Yes.
Before we go into menopause being a magical time in your year or in your life, just remind people who Dr. Tayo is, well, in a few words. And of course, we need like so many episodes to let us know really who Dr. Tayo is. But just tell us a little bit about how you came into this this menopause space. Wow, that sounds really strange, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, this, I'll give you a brief outline how I came into it, which is what you asked for. And one February morning, a similar day like this, I'm in Canada, by the way, so it's, the Great White North, and on the East Coast. And I was at work, like everybody else, working, beavering away. You have a long list of things to do. And all of a sudden, I had this funny sensation that came over me. And I thought, that's strange. Left it alone. Like about 20, 30 minutes later, another one came. It's like, it never happened to me before, but I left it alone. And then the third time, another maybe 20, 30 minutes later, because it was disrupting the flow of my work, I had to kind of like sit back and think of it and say, okay, fine. What is it? Well, what happened was I was having this like cold electric buzz, which went from my upper chest, my arms, all the way to my fingertips pretty much, and then up to my neck. It didn't go any further. But like I said, it was buzz and it was cold. So I didn't make anything of it. All I knew at that time was that, oh gosh, it's not an emergency. I didn't need to go to the ER. I'm a physician, by the way. I don't need to go to the ER or anything like that because I was in the hospital. And I started thinking and putting, two and two together. And putting those two and two together got to the stage where I thought, oh my gosh, don't tell me. Like everybody else, menopause was an terrible word, a mean word. So I thought I put two and two together, and all of a sudden, all those various symptoms that I'd been having for the previous 2-3 years began to make sense. What was, I suppose, strange about it all was that even as a physician, I didn't put it together before then. And that's because we were taught nothing in medical school. Like maybe 1 hour of saying menopause, period, stop, menopause, that's it.
Yes.
Nothing to do with how the woman feels, what the symptoms are, how it can vary. Because like I said, it was not a hot flush, but it was my hot flush. And telling you that it can happen in different ways. And also it's a long process of getting there to a hot flush. So that's it in brief. And since then, we're done.
Even you, a physician, so you know symptoms and causes and all those things. but how afraid were you? Like really, suddenly thinking, "Oh no, this is menopause. Now what? It's the end of my life." Because
Exactly.
that's how we taught, right?
That's exactly right. Because you see women, when you see women, and I remember a long time ago when I saw this woman who was in a cold room, air conditioned meeting room, and she was taking off all her clothes and she was still finding herself. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And I'm thinking, life is over. You become that hairy, monster, losing her mind, all kinds of moods and just sweating and armpits. And I thought, gosh, this doesn't sound right. And I just kept on imagining that kind of suffering going on for years. And it was not something I could afford to do.
Yes. I just have to just mention that I love it how things happen in your life, and it just changes everything. And this is not what I want to do. This is how I'm going to change it. And so, of course, it changes the whole trajectory of your life, which is such a beautiful thing. Because
Totally.
now you've realized no one wants to be that horrible monster that you see in movies and yes, hairy, and you see them on the streets, or you see most of the time you see them in your imagination, right? As well.
I remember somebody once telling me at work about this woman, and she says, oh, she's wound tight. And they have all these rather derogatory and put down expressions for women in midlife, not realizing that this is natural. It's not a disease, and they need help and understanding.
Yes, yes. I love that. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back to you. How do you? The first thing for me, because the self love is a big break fear, find freedom ethos, right? A great thing for me is how do you realize that you know what, I'm okay. I'm not. It's not the end of the world, and I shouldn't be hating myself for a natural process that the society has deemed as a terrible end of the world, monstrous kind of situation.
Mm.
So how do you shift that idea almost in your head?
It took a while, because even though I was doing quite a bit of, shall we say, personal development, as they want to call it now, going into action and getting results towards where you're going takes away a lot of that fear, and you get back to, oh, I'm going to be okay, I love myself, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So you can't sit there chanting I love myself. Doesn't quite
No.
work that way.
No.
You do have to look at it, analyze it, take some action whichever way you can, usually with the help of, I went through like resources. I can't even tell you the things I did, but taking action got me to that space, and also realizing that, oh, guess what? I can amp this up by also practicing self-care and self-love. I can amp it up significantly by doing so, which has now formed the basis of what I share with women who actually want my help going through this process. You can't extricate the spirit and the mental being from the body. You have to have a combined approach to deal with the whole thing, because at the end of the day, what is menopause? Menopause is the decline, I call it falling off a cliff, of your female hormones. They just go offline. It's like done. It's not completely dead, but it is flatlined. Let's put it like that. When a very low level compared to when you were in your childbearing years, and that has consequences. So being in that kind of particular space, you say, okay, what can I do? And you look back and get some help or whatever. So I basically had to spend a lot of time researching everything that moved. I tried it: Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, energy medicine, herbs, spices. My doctor even put me on hormone treatment. And guess what? For 5 years, increasing doses, it wasn't as effective as you would imagine. So there's a whole story there, and I can expand on it later. But that has formed the basis of what I've eventually figured out as the way of having a whole woman-centered process, which is natural. and
Yes.
science backed.
Yes. I love that because again we go back the most of the why all these myths and fears have arisen because they've been mostly dealt with or centered. Men have usually, because I mean, men have been the center of the universe. They've been the doctors, the physicians, and they've been the ones that have been dealing with this. And it's obviously they're more afraid than the woman, and it becomes a vicious circle of
They don't,
messiness.
they
So
don't have any understanding. So a lot of women go to their doctors and get told, you're normal, suck it up, pull up your big girl panties, and they hand them antidepressants as if they've gone off their rocker. There's nothing wrong with them. It's not a disease. And the cause of their anxieties is not due to pure anxiety. It is brought on by the hormone changes. So it needs a different approach. But they're men. And we used to have, until recently, the majority of gynecologists were men.
yes,
And they know nothing of, even young doctors, not being taught sufficiently, don't have as much understanding of it as they
yes,
should. Because it's just not, it's just, the medical patriarchy, as a lot of people want to call it, is does not help women. And yet we know that by next year sometime, 1 billion women with a B are going to be in perimenopause.
wow.
What's going to happen to them?
Wow, that's huge. I didn't realize if you put it in that way, it's insane. But that's why it's so important to have people like you who can, because of course, it's always been it's either mind or it's body or it's soul or whatever, and that's not true. We all know that we one person, mind, body, and soul,
Yes.
and we have to treat it accordingly.
Yes.
So thank you for doing all the research and for saving so many women. Well, saving women from themselves, I suppose, in a lot of ways, because of the myths and all these stories. Now we're going back. It becomes, I'm sure, for a lot of women, it becomes like, oh, you know what, this is not good, and start hating on yourself because of the things that you think are going wrong with you, whereas it's all a natural process. So yes. I think maybe we should go into that to explain a bit, Tayo, about this natural. And of course, it's different for everyone, which is beautiful because everyone's individual, right? But give us a bit of a global view of what happens. How does someone know when they're in menopause or even perimenopause, and what's the difference?
Well, you struck on something, which is saying there are different symptoms for different women, or it expresses differently in women. And the thing about the hormones, okay, perimenopause is the period before menopause. Yes. And menopause is 12 months after your last period, 12 consecutive months. It can't be, you can't nitpick. It must be 12 consecutive months. And all that's telling you is that on average, you finished your childbearing years and you're unlikely, it's not impossible, but you're unlikely to get pregnant. So the period before menopause itself, which is a date, it's actually a date in time, if you take 12 months from your last period, is called perimenopause. Mm-hmm. And that is where the majority of the symptoms begin. Now, where does it begin? We don't know. You have this whole raft of symptoms, and anywhere between about 30 prominent symptoms and 100 in total, anything you can dream of. I just described my own hot flash to you. Yes, there was nothing hot and there was nothing about a flash about it. So you have all these symptoms which come in, but having done a lot of research, I explained to you what happens to me. I realized that I had trouble sleeping for quite a while. For me, that was actually a great pointer, because I used to be a good sleeper. You could burn the house down me and I would fine. So my sleep was disrupted. I couldn't catch good sleep, but I didn't know why. Then I also started feeling fatigued, quite exhausted. You know what happens when you're working and you're trying to do a good work? You are working longer hours to do the same thing. Yes. Because you're so tired, you're just thinking, oh gosh, another day. Oh boy, I've just got to suck it up, get it. I don't drink coffee, so coffee was not an option. And even then, it wouldn't have been a terribly good option, because you're just jacking yourself up, and then you can't sleep at night. And so I was fatigued, and therefore I was just concentrating on work and get home and just try and get some sleep. My social life pretty much diminished because I was in survival mode.
Yes.
Really. And then also, I should have known this, but I didn't. I started putting on weight. And for somebody who used to be really skinny, it was strange, but I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm averaging up to everybody else. I didn't look at it. So, but I tried everything because I liked, after a while, I liked where I was. But when I started, my clothes weren't fitting anymore. Waist is tight, belt, you have to take out a few notches. It was like, what's this? Because it's selective. It's not your whole body. It's selective. It's your waist, your hips, and your thighs. And I thought, oh, I don't like this. And I went through all kinds of programs and diets. You did the starvation, which most people do. You exercise more, etc. So I realized that for the majority of women, they'll have something before they hit hot flush. By the time you have a hot flush, a proper hot flush, most people begin to go, oh, that's menopause or perimenopause, whatever they choose to call it. Or then, when you're having all these, you're feeling like, oh gosh, like a wet dish rag, but they just wrung out and you just can't get anything going. And, you're spending more hours at work just to catch up. That period is about somewhere between 2 to 5 years, even 7, before you hit hot flush. And like I said, on looking back, those early changes, because you can't think, why am I tired? Oh, I must be too stressed. I must be working too hard. And it's a vicious cycle. Oh, why am I putting on weight? I must be eating the wrong foods. I'll get on a diet. And then you go on this yo-yo pedal, which doesn't work. Or, I'm not sleeping. Well, same thing. I'm a bit stressed. I'm anxious. That's preventing me from sleep. But those put together are a good indicator, especially if you've hit your 40s. Like I said, all bets are off. If you hit your 40s and some woman tells me, I'm tired, I'm not sleeping, I'm gaining weight, I say, well, welcome to the club.
I see.
So, as you were saying, because the hormones go up and down, you could be normal one day, perfectly fine. The next day, you feel like a grouch and you feel like, you want to hit the alarm several times, the sleep button several times because you don't want to get out of bed because you pull the covers over you and think, I just don't want to face today. It's an up and down process. It's a roller coaster. It's a true roller coaster because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when the hot flush is going to hit. You don't know when, which night you're going to have night sweats. You don't know why you feel great this moment and next minute you feel slightly anxious. Because anxiety is a good part of it. And all the other symptoms that happen that go with it. And like I said, major things, brain fog is a big one that happens to a lot of people. You're just forgetful, you're leaving things where you shouldn't, all the things that you used to know at the tip of your tongue, your word finding. You can't find a name. You can't find, a phrase that you used to use. You can't find that telephone number you put in a book. You don't even know where you put it, which of the, various books you had it. So those kind of things, you start getting a bit more, shall we say, scattered because you just don't know what to do. And then, of course, for women who are still active, there's a decline in their libido. And that's all due to the hormones, like I said, going offline, and all the tissues dry up, which makes intimacy very, very painful. So in addition to not feeling like it, you also have painful intimacy, which is just kryptonite for a relationship. It's like kryptonite. It's like you just didn't onto it. And so many other things, like I said, dry skin. You have, your palpitations is a big one. And so you might be having palpitations and just thinking, oh, occasionally it's anxiety, and you don't connect it to menopause. And there have been people, including Oprah, by the way, go for all kinds of cardiac tests and find nothing. And nobody connected the dots because they were all men.
Yes.
Nobody connected the dots. You went through a whole raft of tests. Oh, no, you don't have. Or other people who are having these mental problems, and they go for brain CTs and brain MRIs and all kinds of cognitive tests, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's called perimenopause. So that's my big thing in awareness, and for which, if I may share with you, for which I ended up writing a book called Menopause Mistakes, because they were made up of the mistakes I made.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
the mistakes I know that I made, that if I hadn't made some of them, I would have tackled this sooner and I would have been out of it faster and better. It took me, there you go, it's called Menopause Mistakes. And
all the details will be in the descriptions box below.
yeah, and just as an aside, I have a Sassy Menopause Success Toolkit, and the first chapter is in that toolkit. That's the only thing you have to read. The rest are cool resources, but it's meant to get you off that feeling what's going on, feeling I don't know what to do. It'll get you out of that place.
I love this, and as you were talking, I'm thinking about a friend of mine that's had so many. Because you don't know, right? And she's been complaining about stomach problems, and no one finds a solution. She's been speaking about other things, and she's just in such a state because and heart palpitations. I mean, the other night she woke up thinking that she was having a heart attack, and like. And you listen to people, but now that you've put everything in perspective, that's probably what she's suffering from. But all the tests, and she's been to ERs and tests and this and that, and everyone's going like, no. And I think the worst part of this is when doctors start looking at you as if you're crazy, like they go, she's not normal, she's not okay, and start giving pharmaceuticals just to get rid of you, like,
Exactly.
yeah, take this, go away, come back for 3 weeks if you're okay, or call me or don't, And so what happens then? Sorry, Taya, and what happens then is you get even more afraid. You feel even worse about yourself, and you think the whole world, it's like Henny Penny, where the world's falling, and what are you doing? And it affects your life as well, because then you start withdrawing anyway because you're feeling so bad about yourself. So how do you break through that vicious cycle?
Totally. Part of it, like I said, is being aware and educating yourself. So being aware that it's a possibility, because putting your head in the sand, as you said, like Henny Penny, is one of the worst things you can do. So if you're aware that this is a normal process that all women will go through, and for the men out there, it will affect the women in your life. Yes. So if you can help them through it, imagine how much better everybody. Women bear the cost of menopause. For a start, it has a cost. And also the fact that there's a significant loss of earnings from lost productivity. There's a significant loss of confidence because they don't feel listened to, and they feel belittled. And their relationships suffer because nobody knows what's going on. Their relationship with their children they just don't have the energy to participate in the activities of going on with the children. So there are all these kind of things that play into it that women need to be, if they're aware of. The first thing is awareness. Then the next thing is, what do I do? Get help. And the help does not have to be as long as it took me, which was 5+ years. I've done all that research. I've spent all the money on it. It can be as simple as, and of course, okay, that's another tangent, and I won't go off on that tangent except you want to know later, but about hormone treatment, etc. But because I was on hormone treatment and it didn't work quite as well as it should for me. But when you therefore do so, you can get into thriving from surviving, like I was surviving. You can get into thriving faster and easier. That one, I promise. You don't have to start listening to all the people selling you different things. Because just as you said, you go to a doctor for heart disease, they investigate you for your heart. You go to one for your stomach, they investigate you for your stomach. What happened if you got a whole woman approach, realizing that it's a hormone, it's a messenger chemical in your body. And if you go to the root source, you're treating the whole woman, the whole person. And if you approach it from that aspect, you are going to get a faster and easier because you treat them in synchrony. You don't just take an arm and forget that it's attached to a body. You don't just take your nutrition and forget that there are other things because all of those things affect each other.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
So
of
that's
course.
my
I love that, and that's we must all remember that because, and of course, then we go. Just want to go quickly back to the brain fog. That's the biggest thing. I'm sure that you especially a woman, you an intelligent woman, you thrive. You're a physician, right? You thrive on your mental capacities. So when you start feeling that brain fog, or you forget that, I don't know, a phone number, whatever, how fearful do you become? Because it's like such an important part of you. I mean, okay, the whole body, but sometimes some things are just more important than others, right? For each
yes.
person. Each person is individual. So I'm just speaking to you at this moment. How did you get over that fear? Because that must have been horrible, like so scary.
I was fortunate enough not to have brain fog, but the
Uh-huh.
exhaustion almost felt like it because it was just, so I was just tired. I was just afraid of not being able to continue in my career. That was a
Mm,
big
mm,
fear
mm, mm,
because
mm.
that's where my income comes from. That's where my future security would come from. That's where all the things I want to do, travel, have nice meals, take, nice flights to wherever, do the things I want to do. That's where that's going to come from, by doing some measure of work. And if that's taken from me, what else is there for me to do? As somebody once said, you don't have money is like oxygen. Take it away and see how you survive. And if you have to, if what you do is being compromised by anything, it institutes real fear in you. So that fear was so visceral, that I felt I had to figure out a solution. I didn't have a choice.
Yes.
Whatever anybody told me, they gave me hormone treatment and it didn't work. I said, okay, fine, that's not working, but I have to find a solution. I had to begin thinking outside the box and say, guess what? I can't afford to sit down and say, oh, I'm just going to have to suck it up. It was just not an option.
No.
So for women like you and I, not being an option stirred me into motion. And that motion is what allowed me to keep on going until I found something, until now that I feel I am better off than I was 20 years ago, even. I wasn't fit when I was younger. I looked slim. I was not fit. I was not, cardiovascular, nothing. Now I know that, I could go on forever. And when I say forever, when I tell people that I intend to go to 120, everything, God willing, obviously, they look at me strangely. And I said, well, I want other people on the journey with me as well. So there's a selfish reason for this. I want all women to be able to live healthily, because at the end of the day, what do we want? Health. It's not so much how old you are, it's how healthy you are.
Yes.
Because once you start taking away that health, that becomes your only focus. When everything is going right, you don't remember your health. Same as me. When your health starts going south, that's the only thing your focus narrows to that one thing. Because being in good health allows you to express your life whichever way, paint your canvas whichever way you go. But the fear that comes in from not being healthy is horrendous. And you
Yes.
know about it.
Yes. And it just reverberates throughout your life. And not only through your life, through your family, your lover, your partner, your kids, everything. It just reverberates. I mean, of course it does.
Yes, you just said the word reverberates. It's like throwing a pebble and it just keeps rippling outward. And we do have to be, for that reason, you know what they say about having putting on your seatbelt first? You can't help other people if you don't put on your seatbelt. If you are not healthy, you can't help other people do the things that you help them with normally. So put on your health seatbelt. As a woman, get that menopause stuff sorted out. Make sure that you are beyond surviving, you are thriving, you're being of service to the people around you, and you're loving the people around you. You'll go much further than just, saying, oh, I can't do anything about this. You're taking people down the minute you do that.
Yes. I love that. So first, we're talking a lot now. I'm hearing you say Ladies out there, women out there, own it. What do you say
Yes,
about that?
absolutely. It, you've just hit on something, Carina, and I think it is a women empowerment thing. We can't afford to wait for governments, workplaces, you name it, husbands, etc., to give us a space and whatever else we need to deal with perimenopause and menopause. We have to take action ourselves, knowing that in taking action for ourselves, we become empowered. Now, what does the patriarchy fear? A powerful woman. But we can't sit down and be diminished. We have to break those chains of fear and move into our power. And there is nothing like a powerful woman, nothing. Because if I went on, I'd say the problems of the world will be solved by women.
And you know what? You're probably right, Tayo. But I just want to just go back for a moment about owning it. We have to also get to a point where take back your power, ladies, and realize that no one's going to save you. Save yourself, please. Do not expect, and how dare you even expect other people to save you? What are you doing?
You've just got it right in one. I mean, this victim complex has to go. This
Yes.
I need somebody to come and rescue you has to go. You have to say, guess what? I'm off a cliff. That parachute, I'm building it as I'm falling down, as I'm dropping down. That parachute is going to happen because I am determined to have that parachute, and I can make it happen. When women believe in themselves that way, the way you've just described, it's a powerful thing. Unfortunately, it scares too many people.
Yes.
So what do? We keep on sharing and talking to women and encouraging them and let them know that it is not as complex as it's made out to be. It doesn't take, the solution does not need to be as long. It does not need to be as complex as it's made out to be. Because since you can go to the root problem, you can have the seed that will take care of blooming the tree.
Yes. 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 So instead of it being the end of the world, like I said at the beginning, it's actually the beginning, because now you can really take charge of your life, take charge of your health, take charge of living this beautiful life and experiencing it. Right?
Oh boy, there are so many quotes that I have. I wish I could have found one for you, and I will see if I can find one without being, going off the podcast. And maybe I'll find it so that you can put it in your notes or something.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Germaine Greer is a world-renowned, shall we say, what's she? A feminist. And she has these quotes, and she did a lot of study about menopause. Menopause, the medical term for menopause is climacteric, but we don't need medical jargon when menopause and people understand at least what menopause means. Climacteric means nothing to anybody. And that's what the establishment does. It throws jargon at us, knowing we don't understand, knowing you don't have time to investigate it. And you go in there and you won't find hardly any articles except dense articles about the climacteric. But she was writing there in the era when climacteric was the word to use. Now, we're using menopause. We'll get to a stage where perimenopause is the primary word, because that is the real descriptor and the beginning of those changes. But it happens slowly. But she has some wonderful, wonderful, empowering quotes. And all it says is at the end of the day, you get through menopause, the world is your oyster.
Yes. Yes. And then again, it's like once you take charge of yourself and you realize that you can be, and have anything you want, then the people around you also feel that, and it empowers your family and your partners. It's not a selfish things. So someone said to me, because the self-love is very prevalent. It's just morphed like Break Fear, Find Freedom has morphed a lot into the self-love, because obviously it has to, right? Because that's where it is. And someone said to me, but that's very selfish. And it's not. It's not. But again, we need to understand it, but that's another story. But it links a lot into this menopause. Into this menopause space that we're talking about, because then people realize that, you know what? It's okay. I own this. No one will save me. Let me become a better person for myself, and with that, for my relationship, my family, my friends, my children, or whatever it is that you want in your life. And maybe you just want it for yourself, and that's okay too.
You said it so beautifully, because there is nothing, talking about fear on the other side, and we've already mentioned it, that a lot of people fear than a powerful person. It makes them nervous. So any way they can to take you down and to prevent you from getting into that power, they will take it. And right now, how do they do that? Here's what I've observed. Why are there so few female CEOs in the boardroom, or as partners, or at senior higher level? The glass ceiling is not due to ability. We know that. Because women on average who are getting those levels work a lot harder than the men. Sorry, men, but that's just a fact. But beyond that, just as they're getting to the zenith of their careers, perimenopause, menopause comes on top of it. So they're hit with a double whammy. And that double whammy is nothing that, one, they understand, that the environment knows what to do with, and all the people who are therefore looking to climb that ladder don't exactly want you to climb that ladder too. So they see it as a way you've taken yourself out, or you can't cope. That's the common thing. You can't cope. Whereas all you need is a bit of support, having time off, getting the right management, encouragement, and allowances, whether it's, people wear uniforms, environments they're in, having a bit of ability to take some rest or to take some time off. Try being at a senior level and wanting to take time off work. It's seen as you're not a team member. You can't pull your weight. What's she doing? She must be faking it. Because, you tell people, what's the matter with you? It's just, that used to be what we used to say about childbearing, about pregnancy.
Yes, get over it.
Yes, get over it. Come back to work. And in my parents' era, they went back to work 6 weeks or less. In fact, it was less than 6 weeks. Somebody told me she had to be back to work in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yes. How could you do that? Totally ignoring those raging hormones, those things that were happening to you. So, I really feel that we need to be able to empower women to be able to ask for what they need at this time, because that's the only way they're going to make the progress and fulfill the dreams they had for themselves and their careers, which will also help their families. It's an expanding circle. You empower a woman, and the whole community rises along with it.
Yes.
If you don't, the community just kind of blahs and goes away. Women hold communities, whether they're workplaces or their families or their nations. They hold it together because there's also some accountability, which we demand.
Yes.
So,
okay, well, that's beautiful. It's like it's very empowering and exciting. So thank you, Taya. And again, I just want to, before we just go into what people need to do. You were talking about people fear empowered women or people, and the thing that came into my head as you were saying that is because you're not so manipulated. You're not manipulatable.
well,
And that is scary for someone who's trying to control the society, or without.
Yes,
I'm
totally. It's when they can't control you. And how do they control you? By making you feel less than.
Yes, yes.
And how do you feel less than? Because the whole process of going through menopause with no support, women lose their confidence, because you're not sleeping well, you can't think well, you're not as productive as you used to be, you're putting on weight, you can't fit into your usual clothes, you look in the mirror and you think, what's this? And all those things society puts together to bring you down. And it takes a huge amount of effort to move beyond that and into a higher realm.
I love that, because that's a perfect place to say that's where you come in and say, okay, here, I've done the work. This is how you find your freedom. So tell us, Taya, how do people find their freedom? How do women find their freedom from these myths and fears and ugliness that people have made menopause to be?
Yes. As I initially said, awareness is one of them. And there's no point listening to the old tired advice about menopause that, doesn't work now, i.e., they used to, in the old days, they used to give the hormone treatment used to be made from pregnant horses' urine. Since when did, women's estrogen equate women pregnant, the urine from a pregnant horse? But it's a commercial enterprise. It's still cheap now. And I have to tell you, it's still being prescribed today.
Wow.
It's still being prescribed today. And all the research that was done by the Women's Health Initiative, which was a few years ago, blamed taking hormones on producing breast cancer. Number one, that story was misinterpreted. Number two, they were using outdated treatments, which were like things like Premarin, because it's now been proven that using what they call a bioidentical hormones, which are hormones that are identical to a woman's own hormonal structure, doesn't give you those kind of effects. And in fact, the risk for breast cancer from using it continuously for 5 years. I have cats here. Sorry, Carina, and they're terrible.
It's okay.
They're just clawing at my legs right now. But anyway, so that Women's Health was not only misinterpreted, it also made conclusions that were not valid and proven to be false. And right now, we had a decline in women using hormone treatment from 40% to 4%, and it's not recovered. Yes, hormone treatment has a place to pay when you have a place when you have severe, when you have severe symptoms and you want to it's like if you had, let's see, chronic pain, or if you had acute pain, you would probably need surgery or some more invasive intervention. Chronic pain has gentler methods of dealing with it. So if you have severe symptoms that are really putting you on edge and you can take it, hormone treatment is still a first-line treatment. If it is the only one, it wasn't for me, because you need something beyond that. It can't help, with a lot of things. It can't help with your gut health. It just can't help with a lot of things. So you have to take that into consideration and say, okay, fine. But after that, I need to do other things to help me. I need to sort out my sleep. I need to sort out my diet. And you mentioned your friend with gut issues. I need to sort out, my brain fog. And all these things, while they take a while, if you address the root cause, which is the hormones, are much faster and easier than going through the traditional, what do I do for my brain? What do I do for my gut? Because they're synergistic. They work together. If you're working and rebalancing your hormones, they work together and you get a faster and easier result. It doesn't have to be complicated. So which is why I put together, as I think I mentioned earlier, a menopause success toolkit, which will start you on that journey. One of the things, as I said, is the first chapter of the book. The other is, these cats are driving me nuts. The other is a mouth-watering, and I have to tell you, mouth-watering menu and recipe plan, which is good for you if you want to burn that fat off your middle. The others, it's a treasure chest. The others you'll discover. But it's all about getting and working with all of these things together and the synergistic effect. You know, when they say the whole is greater than the sum of the parts?
Yes, yes, yes.
The human body works like that. So if you work on balancing the hormones, the effects are much better than taking one thing, the other thing, the third thing. It gives you a much better effect. And that's the purpose of that thing. And you move beyond that, the treasure, but it gets you on your way. It gives you a nice lift. Let's address a few things. So I want, your listeners to have that treasure chest, and, you'll help them share the link with them so that
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's exciting because now there is a solution. You don't have to be in this pain and this fear. There's a solution. Go see this beautiful this rescue kit almost, and yes, and obviously if you need further help, Dr. Tayo's there, right? You there for questions, and maybe if you really wanted, we can do a follow up on this. That's
I
also
would be happy to. I would be more than happy to, because I feel, like I said, if you have 1 billion women coming into it and women have lost their jobs or they've been demoted or they have actually pulled back from the progress they wanted to make because they didn't feel they had the ability to do so. And some women, unfortunately, have also gone a lot further, if you know what I mean.
yes, yes.
And that should never, ever, none of those things should happen. None of those things should happen for something that's a natural process. Because if you went and the man said, oh, I have a large prostate. It's not even prostate cancer. I have a large prostate. Everybody says, oh, poor dear. Okay, what can we do? This is a life-altering process, because if I could just share something, women never used to live into what we traditionally call menopause, because the old, a few hundred years ago, we didn't live that long.
Yes.
Nature took care of business. We finished having our children. Our children started having children. The universe said, time to go. And so, you were gone. Now that we live longer, and we live longer through perimenopause and menopause, and we live our adult years, assuming that perimenopause starts at 45, which for some, it starts a lot earlier. If you look at that, what happens is that the universe is still at work. It still remembers and it still withdraws those hormones because it doesn't see any reason why it should support you when there are younger women coming up, pubertal women it needs to support. So it withdraws that and allows you to do your own thing. But now we have modern knowledge, research, and technology. The very same things that have given us longevity holds the solution. The very same things. If we pay attention and we put it together, the very same things will give us a solution. But saying that we don't do anything about menopause has consequences down the road.
Yes.
Heart attacks, heart disease, strokes, osteoporosis, dementia, cancers. There's a whole raft of diseases, other chronic diseases that come along that are a consequence of not dealing with it at the right time. So even if you think that you're going to tough it out through menopause, further down the line, you have all these diseases waiting for you because menopause increases the risk of all those things. So what you're doing is decreasing the risk significantly. I don't want to be ending up in a wheelchair. I don't want my, and I've watched people do it, and maybe you have, who have dementia. It is a soul-destroying process.
Oh, yes.
It's a soul-destroying process, and having to put them in nursing homes and they can't remember you. It is just awful. And if we can decrease the risk of all those things significantly, guess what? We can live longer in good health. The whole idea of living longer in good health, the cats are at my feet now. The whole idea of living longer in good health is to be able to enjoy life, to be able to fulfill our purpose.
Yes. And experience life, yes, and enjoy life. Exactly. And why not?
Yes. So I mean, we're not here to be deprived or to deprive ourselves. We're here to express ourselves as fully as we can. We're here to be able to, with the help of people like you, to be able to break that fear and not hold back on enjoying life fully. There is so much, and we have not scratched even a cell, the equivalent of a cell. of what
Yes.
we can do. We've not scratched the surface. And why should we hold ourselves back? Well, there are things we can do to make life a lot more pleasant and fulfilled and happy.
Yes. Yes. And we deserve it.
And then some juicy aliveness, sassy aliveness. That's what I'm after. That's what I wish for all the women. Be alive. Glow.
Yes. 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 Oh, it's such a beautiful way to end this this episode.
So he is insistent on saying,
Oh, oh, look at that. Is he the most adorable? Look at him.
there are two of them. Did I tell you the two of them? They're brothers. They're bonded brothers, and which is why they tear the house apart. The other one is not too far away.
Oh, look at him. Oh, I love you, Ma. There was a reason I was doing that, so you picked me up.
Yes. No, there's something they say about you can't outstomach a cat. They get what they want eventually. And we women can take a leaf out of that book.
Yes, yes. So take a leaf out of the book.
You're a
beautiful leaf.
Yeah, you're a he, but you got the right idea.
Yes, look at this. Look how beautiful he is, or she is.
They're both he's.
And to get Dr. Tayo's all the information for the Sassy rescue kit.
Yes, Sassy. Yes, I call it Sassy.
Oh, the name is, everything is.
Yes. So
in the details in the description box.
Donate for good measure. So hey, why not?
Yes.
But it's been a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your your openness, your willingness to allow me to share your platform to talk about this passion about empowering women in this particular way, because women who are empowered, I still say it, will change the world. Will change the world. And we need more women around us and uplift each other to, so for the work you're doing, Carina, I gotta applaud you. Thank you so much for it. And let's break free of those chains.
Yes. 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 Well, thank you, Tayo. Thank you so much. I always love these conversations. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this. It's such an important topic, and it's so important to empower each other and to lift each other up. I think that's the most important. Instead of, there's no competition. Let's just collaborate and lift each other up, and together we can change the world. And it starts with us, right? So thank you.
You're a darling. I always love being here. And, one of the episodes, you saw the previous cat who unfortunately passed away. You've seen the new cat, and we have had a nice, wonderful time contributing to our communities and wanting the best for everyone, not just one person, not just our local, but for everyone.
Yes. Yes.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Tayo. I'm very grateful to have you here on the show, and we'll talk soon. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And remember, share it with people that you think, this is something that you should share with everybody, because it's life-changing. And if you are watching, because I know it's quite interesting, I've got a bigger male following. And remember, you've got women in your life that would love you even more if you can support them during this time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tayo. Thank you for being the change. And we'll see you soon. And thank you, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.